Good morning, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Good morning, Henry County. Good morning, all of Southeast Iowa. This is Mount Pleasant Live. I am Mike Heaton, your host, coming to you from downtown Mount Pleasant with Nick Steffens. Hey, Nick, how you doing today?
Good. I'm doing pretty good. I can't breathe, but for the most part.
The air quality's still pretty a little heavy, isn't it? Because of the Canadian wildfires?
It's been like 3 weeks. They need to get it together up there.
Yeah, they do. Get the fires done.
Yeah.
You know, I lived in Colorado for a while, and we had some pretty serious fires when I was out there. We were living in the mountains, running a camp for low-income kids up there. And there was a huge wildfire a mile down the road, like very close.
Yeah.
The winds were going the other way, so they said we were fine. But they had, bunch of kids hanging out in the camp.
Yeah.
But they had the planes ready. We'd see them fly right over, like right above our heads to dump water down the way. And I mean, those guys and gals are incredibly brave.
Yeah.
The ones that are flying the planes, well, they're putting out the wildfires by making trenches, the whole 9 yards. And I don't envy them at all right now. That's incredible work that they're doing.
In middle school and like even I think fifth grade to like high school, they make you take I Have a Plan Iowa, which is like a aptitude test to tell you what career would be good.
Oh,
for you.
sure.
They make you do it every year. And I got fire investigator.
Fire investigator.
Like everyone else got like cool things like sports announcer.
Yeah.
Like doctor. And I got fire investigator. Like how did fires start?
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of lame.
Yeah. hey, it's all important work. Every job is important in the world. Hey, welcome. It's good to see you again. I haven't, it's been just a crazy couple days, it feels like. I have been just all over the place, traveling. I've been, we're not moving anymore, which is nice, but Father's Day was a little bit thing in itself.
Yeah.
You don't did you celebrate Father's Day at all? What's your story with Father's Day? I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't have kids, right?
I don't have kids.
So that's the key. So did you hang out with your mom?
I just hung out by myself.
Yeah?
It's kind of, because Jade worked.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go to a Juneteenth celebration.
Oh, that's right.
But then it was like...
Is that on a Sunday, even though Juneteenth was yesterday?
It was like a Father's Day Juneteenth celebration.
Yeah.
And then it was a potluck, so I had to like bring food. And it was like, do I really want to wake up and make like a baked mac and cheese at
that's fair.
6 a.m.? And I decided not to.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
so
fair.
I was kind of lazy.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I got the green light from the family just to relax and do nothing, do whatever I wanted to all day. And normally that means like, oh, go hang out with your kids, which I did. We went to brunch over at the Grange. But it's amazing. On Mother's Day, from what I can tell, like mom gets to do whatever she wants, right?
Yeah.
Father's Day, you get to hang out with the kids. You seen that? It's like it's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. Hopefully not. I don't think I'm a father.
No, I hope not too, Nick. If you don't know, you never know. You never know. Hey, that said, though, today's episode is going to be pretty epic. Speaking of parents and kids, and we're going to talk about generational differences.
Yeah.
Which I think will be a fascinating conversation. I'm an Xer. You are a what?
Zer.
You're a Zer?
Yeah, which is really weird because would you consider us friends?
Yeah. We get along pretty well, I feel like.
But then like Robbie is Gen Z.
True.
Like I'm closer to your son's age.
Oh, yeah, much. Yeah, he's 17.
Yeah.
And you 23, 24?
23.
23, yeah. So, yeah, you're a lot closer to him. But, you know, it's interesting. People talk about generation differences all the time, but you usually hear it in context of the two largest generations of our era, and that's the boomers and the millennials.
Yeah.
And people talk about how different they are and all their context growing up. The people you don't hear about very often, well, ever, the Gen Xers. We're the ignored generation.
It's the middle child.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we are of generational, right? You had this huge population of boomers, and then you had this sort of very tiny group of Xers who just got ignored.
Notoriously quiet.
Yeah. Independent. Thank you. Independent. We'll go through that here in a bit. Independent. And then we had the baby boomers kids, which was naturally large as well, which is the millennials, right? And that's all you hear about, which is great. But now there's these subcultures of generations, the Xers and Zers, right?
And I feel like a lot of our viewers are Gen Xers. There's a few older millennials, but a lot of them are Gen Xers.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Mount Pleasant's a very Gen X town, it feels like, to a certain extent. Yeah, so we're going to get into that a little bit here this morning. I swear, we are recording live. I need some more coffee. But before we do that, let's talk weather today. What do we got today in terms of the weather, Nick? I'm going to let you do the weather today. Yeah.
It's pretty nice. What is it?
68, 70 right now. What's the high? Do you know?
I don't.
We used to have that on my sheets here,
68.
but it's currently 68 degrees.
And it's going to get up.
Feels like it's going to be warm again. Yeah, it's going to be warm again. 88. But chance of rain's pretty low. Again, unfortunately, our grass is turning brown.
Yeah.
We're there. That is not good for our farmers. It's not good for our lawns.
Yeah.
Our trees, if you recently planted them. If you need to water, go water. I don't think we have any kind of like water drought that we need. Like when I was in Colorado, you had to like conserve water.
Yeah.
But here, I think we're okay for now. But it's getting a little bit nasty out there.
Some like random old dude told Jay, it's like, yeah, it never rains in Mount Pleasant. She's like, what is he talking about? It's like, it just doesn't rain. Like it could rain everywhere else in Southeast Iowa where nothing.
Have you ever watched the radar when it does? It feels like it does. It literally, I don't know if it's the valleys or whatever, but
I
like
think
it
it's
always
splits.
splits.
Been at like a friend's cabin just south of town.
Yeah.
And like a storm, like we were fishing and the storm rolls in. As soon as it gets to the Skunk River, it just
Like it's does a split thing. Yeah. And then it comes back together again around it. And my brother farms down in Salem. Him and Aaron do. Aaron farms. My brother helps her out, as you know from a previous episode. But it's it feels like the weather just always goes around us. But as a whole, Southeast Iowa is currently sitting in a drought. Unfortunately, we can talk. We should get like a meteorologist or a drought expert in at a future episode. I think we do. I think we have a couple, at least self-proclaimed, if not actually professional.
We gotta get some of those. I know there's like some people that do storm chasing. We could
that's true.
track some of them down. No pun intended.
That'd be fun. I like that. So we have until we get that incredible interview on the weather. We're rocking it this morning, y'all. We have some local events coming up. Actually, some really cool local events. And tomorrow night, June 21st, is a really cool presentation by Bob Bartles of World Relief. It's going to be about Ukrainian refugee resettlement. You know, this war in Ukraine and Russia has been since almost a year and a half now.
Yeah, almost.
It was like March or so of last year.
February 4th.
Yeah. And so it's been going on. A lot of people have been impacted by it. And one of them is you get refugees, right? When your home is getting destroyed, when your hometown, your community is getting. I used to work with UNICEF, and so we worked with a lot of refugee settlements and so on. And Bob Bartles with World Relief will be speaking at First Presbyterian Church tomorrow night about exactly that. He's going to discuss the ways to assist Ukrainian refugees in Southeast Iowa. We actually have resettlement in Southeast Iowa. Once the family acquires a sponsor and has been vetted by the government, they can come to the U.S. and seek employment immediately. It's one of our programs. It's a way into the U.S. The meeting will inform those interested in supporting these very deserving families and how to get involved, including the option of sponsorship, while a sponsor commits to making sure they have shelter, food, access to health insurance, the basic necessities of life. The sponsor does not have to provide all these things, just to help the newly arrived families as they get established. This will be an opportunity to meet Bob Bartles, a sponsor and the leader of the Refugee Resettlement Agency called World Relief that helps sponsors help families. It's going to be really cool. It's where if you really want to make a difference in people's lives, you might want to come tomorrow night on Wednesday, June 21st, 6 p.m.
It's been interesting because I've been walking around stores, up in Iowa City or even around Southeast Iowa, and I've like heard Ukrainian being spoken. Right. It's like when you're not expecting, it's kind of like a whiplash of like, am I having a stroke right now, or is that a foreign language? And that's, so it's I think it's important, and I think Southeast Iowa would be a good place if you look at what Ukraine looks like, and they're very agricultural heavy. I think Southeast Iowa's it's going to be a pretty easy place for them to adjust to
it's a really good fit.
And I've heard people that have taken families in and have loved it.
Yeah. And we need it too here in Southeast Iowa. It's good to have new populations come in, new perspectives, and economically, it's good to have a little. The other piece of it too is that people don't often see that side of the war.
Yeah,
they think, it's who's going to win, who's going to lose, and it becomes a game in people's minds, or whether it's justified or not, and all that stuff. The reality is that it impacts people's lives, and it doesn't take much to sit and think about your own life, your own hometown. Ukraine is a developed country, people. It's just like Mount Pleasant. And if there's a war here, you get resettlement. You have to leave if your homes get destroyed, your schools get destroyed, or your water systems, your hospitals, whatever it is, and you can't rebuild until you have peace.
Yeah.
So people seek safety for their families. So if you're interested in supporting some of those families that are seeking safety, stop on by First Presbyterian Church here in Mount Pleasant. I think it's 902 South Walnut Street. I know it's over by Old Threshers on Walnut Street.
Next to the, I'm forgetting, Northgate.
Yeah. I love how that's
messed up.
Yeah, it's like I can give you the actual address, but it's the North Gate at Old Threshers, and everybody knows exactly what we're talking about, right? Yeah. Aloha Family Bingo Night, as we've been talking about for the last week or so. This, of course, is an awesome event of Addington Place in Mount Pleasant, June 26th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Now, this is going to be fun because is this the one that's Hawaiian themed?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have a good Hawaiian shirt, come play bingo at Addington Place. Professional bingo caller will guide you through multiple rounds of the classic game. All residents, family, and friends are invited to this event, so spread the word. Addington Place.
And we're gonna have Cody on Thursday show.
Oh, awesome! Really?
Yeah.
And is that what, June 26th? So perfect. He can talk all about it.
Yeah.
We'll still have time.
I think there's more. They have like the movie nights too as well. Like,
oh, geez, yeah.
Events going on.
Addington Place is the happening place to be in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. All right, that's the events going on. Before we get into generational stuff, got to get serious for a moment, Nick.
Yeah.
Before we get into generational stuff, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
It's a big question. What kind of car do you drive?
I drive a 2011 Buick Regal.
Buick Regal? I used to have one of those, actually.
Every time I've seen someone on the street that also drives a Buick Regal, they're 80.
Okay, next topic.
Next
topic.
It is a grandpa car.
So, we had Aaron on last week, Aaron Heaton, and that's my brother's sister-in-law, or it's my sister-in-law, my brother's wife. And talking about my brother a little bit, he called me up afterwards, like, you talking about me on the radio or on the stream? And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, buddy. He's like, yeah. But one thing I will talk about with my brother in cars, speaking of Buick Regal, my mom used to drive a Buick Regal, so that sort of fits your narrative a little bit. She would have been 72-ish. So
80 might have been hyperbolic.
Yeah. It may have been used at the time, so that might work. But she used to drive that, and back in high school, my brother was really good at finding old cars, and either they've been flooded or wrecked, and having them rebuilt, and then we get them as kids to drive, not kids, but as teenagers, right? That's how he would convince my parents. It's like, oh, this is like at the time $15,000 car, but you can get it for $3,000 through my buddy who repairs this stuff, right? And so he got a Grand Am.
That was like my second car.
Sweet cars back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Pontiac Grand Am. It was a nice little sporty car without, the high end sport car. But he then got a massive Chevy Blazer, or maybe it was S10. I think it was Chevy S10. And so I was going to get the Grand Am, right? And my mom had the Regal, and it was Christmas Day in Linden Heights, Iowa, and an icy road, as you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
And Chris took it into a light pole. I'm at the bottom of the hill, Linden Heights. Everybody knows that light pole. And of course, I didn't get the Grand Am, but Chris still got the S10. And of course, I got the Buick Regal instead. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. And then he did it again when I was supposed to get the S10. He got a Chevy Blazer. He wrecked his S10. So I end up with, I think, the old Chevy van or something that my dad drove.
Speaking of vans, I'm the youngest of four. And so
you got the major hand-me-downs.
I got the major hand-me-downs. Because my mom drove it, and then my three siblings drove it, and then I got a Chrysler Town & Country minivan. I was the van guy in high school. The ceiling.
No. Hold on. Say it again. The Chrysler, say it.
Town & Country. 1999 or 2000 Chrysler Town & Country.
Okay, now we're just going to let that sit just for a moment.
Puke yellow.
Oh, no. You got to just let it sit right. Oh, that's good, actually. Puke yellow?
The ceiling was peeling off.
Was it the kind of one that had the fabric ceiling that hung down like a bubble?
Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's awesome.
It was gross.
That's awesome. And now you drive a
2011 Buick Regal.
Okay, that's awesome. Dude.
It was, yeah.
That's amazing. But speaking of bygone eras, when we get back from commercial break, we are going to talk about our generational differences, which ironically are very similar.
Yeah.
It sort of makes sense because you could be my kid. So
that's a good point.
All right, we'll be right back after this commercial.
Protection is important, especially when you're talking about your dreams, which is why we're going to keep you covered with plans that can save you up to 23% when you bundle your home and auto. That's protection.
Bring the kids and share the memories from steam engines, antique cars and trucks, tractors, gas engines, and horses. Maybe your memories are of great food from the North Village to the Log Village, or learning how to square dance over at the Dance Barn. This is the place where memories are made. Make plans now to enjoy the history of the past at the 2023 Midwest Old Threshers Reunion, August 31st through September 4th in Mount Pleasant. Visit oldthreshers.com for more details.
Unbelievable amount of devastation. I've never seen anything like it.
We had a beautiful barn that was gone in 20 minutes.
Farm Bureau stepped up right away and said, hey, we got you and we'll be there for you.
We were taken care of. Now we could get on to repairing and rebuilding.
I tell everybody about Farm Bureau.
We're fortunate to say we have good coverage with good people doing it.
Contact Farm Bureau agents Tony Starr and Mike Welcher in Mount Pleasant today.
Welcome back to Mount Pleasant Live. We are talking generational differences today, but we're taking a little different track. Most time when you hear about generations, you hear about the boomers versus the millennials because they're the two largest populations. Today, we are talking about Nick and I's generations.
Yes.
The Xers, which I am a younger member of the Generation X. And what's your generation?
Gen Z, but like I'm the older Gen Z, as was put on display when Robbie was in. And
That's right.
I was like, oh, I'm not the cool Gen Z anymore.
Right. So give me some back. You did a lot of research. You asked in true Generation Z style.
Yeah.
I would just Google as an Xer. I Google generational differences, similarities, traits. What did you do to find out?
Ask ChatGPT.
Of course you did. He just went straight to AI.
Copy and pasted it on.
Yep. And then we printed it out for me because I needed it on paper to be able to read instead of on my computer.
Yeah.
Nice. So what are some of the differences?
Size 18 font for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It totally sort of is, isn't it? Hold on. I didn't know.
It's in 14.
14. Okay. That's not too bad. All right. So what are some of so how do you want to do this? Do you want to make fun of me or do I make fun of you?
I think we're just going to make fun of each other.
Okay. That works. It works.
But you said there's a lot of differences.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the basics, right? Like what is Gen X? And then I want to go into differences. So what do you define as Gen X, or what does ChatGPT define as Gen X?
Gen X is early 60s and early 80s is when you're born. I think the cutoff was, I forget. So 1981, 1980 would be the cutoff for youngest Gen X. And then I forget when, I want to say 1964.
Right in there. So we're a small group.
Yeah.
Short time frame is. Yeah. I mean, no one really knows because we get ignored.
Yeah, I mean, it's and they're all lines are blurred, as we'll talk about later.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
You have older siblings, or if you're the oldest and all that stuff.
And by the way, if that came off as like resentment, like our generation gets ignored.
Yeah.
No, it's not resentment at all. This is a tried and true thing we've been working at for a long time. We want to be ignored. We're doing our own thing.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Because number one characteristic for you guys is latchkey generation.
Correct.
Enlighten me on what the latchkey generation is.
Latchkey, if you think about history, right, like in 1950s, 1960s, you saw a women's rights movement happen, especially women in the workplace, not to get out of the house, to be able to have a little more freedom to pursue your own interest and career, right? Well, that happened, and we were the kids of that generation. And so women went to work. And as a result, we were the first generation with a lot of two family incomes, or two worker incomes. Parents are both working, right? And so as a result, we had no supervision. We were gone. You
get home from school at 3:30.
Yeah.
Hour and a half until the parents get home.
Exactly. If even then, if they had a commute,
maybe 2 hours.
And so our generation, we had to take care of ourselves. We made ourselves snacks. We got ourselves to school sometimes and got ourselves home. And I mean, I look at, like, we'll talk about you guys here in a second, like my kids and how I know where they're at with phones.
That's true.
But back then, we just ran the neighborhood and ran around, not Leave It to Beaver style, but like they didn't know where we were.
Yeah.
And eventually when the lights came on, you went home and grabbed dinner if your parents were home yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of deal. So like we just did our own thing.
Yeah. And I feel like that was, since we kind of mentioned as Gen Z, we're the children of Gen X. So we were kind of raised the same way. Yeah. It wasn't really helicopter parenting. Like I'd get home, granted my dad worked nights, so he would be home sometimes.
Sure.
But other times it'd just be my older siblings and
I.
Because that's what you guys grew up with, and you guys knew.
That's what we know. But yeah, you can do it. You can run the neighborhood, and you're fine, right? Like usually.
Yeah, because the bus would drop me off at Saunders School.
Yep.
I walked the 4 blocks home, or I rode my bike to school. So
rode your bike to school,
and it was
dangerous.
It was uphill both ways.
Yeah, you had to get down and up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to Van Allen.
I went to Van Allen.
Down Henry Street. Yep.
But it's uphill both ways.
I love it. So yeah, we were the last key generation, and we raised the Generation Zers in a similar mindset.
Yeah.
With one exception. Your generation obviously has far better technology than we had. And so we actually so as a Gen Xer, the simple idea of being tracked by GPS is haunting.
Yeah.
Right. And so when that first came out, that technology, I was like, oh, whatever. So I got something in my eye. I was like, no way. I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to use GPS to track my kids, to track myself. None of that, because I want independence, fiercely want independence. Right. Oh my God, it's so convenient though as a parent. So convenient as a parent. And you guys are used to it. It's not even a thing.
Since I had, no offense, my mom and dad, older parents that weren't as tech savvy.
We love you, Barb.
Yeah, we love you. Yeah. No, this isn't making fun of you. But she didn't have like Life 360 on her phone that she could track my location. And I don't think she would want to do that.
No,
really.
Right.
But yeah, that is, a lot of my friends were like, oh, I had to call and text my parents every single movement I make, because if they see my location move to down the street, they're gonna know. And there's kind of a helicopter parenting aspect of it, but it's also handy if they're walking home from school. For a fact that they're home.
Well, and the beauty of it, it's not so much helicopter, because helicopter is like the idea of you're hovering every moment, right? With the apps, you can just set up alerts for certain things.
Exactly.
Like they're driving over 80 miles an hour. Bing! Yeah, it's like, hey, what are you doing,
Parents abuse it, but it is just a handy tool to have, especially in our modern day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It gives you that sense of security as a parent, but it's also like just violently against my Generation X instinct of like, sorry guys, like.
I mean, it's also, now we have like home security systems where people have, CCTV in their homes.
Right.
As a parent, it's nice because you can just log in and see what's going on around your house. You could abuse that.
True.
And just, completely monitor every movement your child makes. But there's also this aspect like, oh, I get the notification on my phone that they're home.
Which actually does lead into another Generation X trait. So why you guys as Generation Zs were born and raised in technology, the first generation truly in technology.
Leaps and bounds when we were younger, but really since we were in middle school, it's kind of stagnated.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big piece of it with Xers is it was all new to us. We're the first generation to deal with it. We were mostly raised. We were like in our teens or 20s when a lot of this new stuff came out. The internet was there a little bit. But I mean, I remember dial-up, AOL.
Like consumer technology. I mean, these things existed, but
exactly.
For NORAD, not for
exactly.
Joe Schmo.
Yeah, on that large scale. But we learned how to adapt to it. So Generation X is really good at adapting to technology. Like it's something new. Oh, we're not against it. We don't seek consistency and change. We love change actually.
Yeah.
But that's because that's what we're used to. We're constant change because we went from magazines to and books to Kindles essentially. Yeah.
I actually read an interesting article the other day about how millennials are actually more tech savvy than Gen Z. Because, like you said, you had to adapt.
Oh, sure.
Whereas Gen Z, it's kind of, especially younger Gen Z, it's just always, it's been kind of stagnant. The iPhone has been the iPhone.
Right.
We didn't go from a flip phone to the iPhone. It's just always been
the iPhone
and smartphones. And so we haven't had to learn. So we're kind of worse when it comes to adaptation, even though we are natives.
Right.
That also has drawbacks.
But it's interesting though, because that is to me, it's a progression.
Yeah.
Right. So how to manipulate the new technology in ways that we can't. Like for instance, I would have Googled, generation traits and you're like, oh, let's ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Without a second thought. Right. And I look at like economics and business and how they say AI is going to take all these jobs. But then I look at Generation Zers and I'm like, no, it's not. It's just going to change how they do their job.
Yeah. We just don't have to do the menial tasks anymore.
Yeah. And they're if they learn how to work with AI, then their job now is to work with AI instead of to do those tasks.
Like marketing, for instance.
Right.
Marketing will no longer be, who's our group we're going to go after and what are we going to play? You don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
Because of big data and you just get all the information and AI does it for you. So you just don't have to do that aspect. Marketing still exists.
Right.
Marketers will still exist, but you just don't have to do the other parts of the job.
No, that makes perfect sense. So what are some, so let's get out of technology for a moment, because that's the easy one. That's the thing that's probably been the most non-fluid, or fluid, I guess. Fluid. Yeah, it's changed but hasn't been consistent. What are some of the other traits that are sort of the differences or similarities between the two generations?
We kind of talked about it before the show, but with Gen X, this isn't on the list for Gen Z, but Gen X was like the slacker generation.
Yeah.
In Gen Z, there's a lot of too much discourse, in my opinion, about like the quiet quitting and all these things about Gen Z. But I think that's an interesting similarity between the two.
I think so too. And it makes sense considering that age-wise, like I'm 20 some years older than you. And so like you're my kid's generation, right? Like it sort of makes sense. You could have been my kid, but we get along really well because of the way our worldviews are relatively similar, because you guys are raised by my generation, that kind of thing. But that said, we live to work. No, work to live. We work to live. And that was a big change from the boomer generation.
It's very workaholic.
Yeah.
Nose to the grindstone.
You brought up a really good point though before the show. I never thought about it before. Is why do you think that is? What changed in that sense? We're not lazy.
No.
We want to have a quality life balance.
And one is seeing parents. I mean, if you Gen X saw workaholic parents, and there's drawbacks to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we appreciate all the work they did for us.
Oh yeah.
But there is drawbacks to that. And you saw them break their backs for their jobs. And it's like, well, I don't want to live that way.
Right.
But if you look at boomers and millennials, when they graduated college or got out of education, the world was different. And so there's a lot of discourse now about labor shortages and all this stuff.
Right.
We both kind of graduated into that labor shortage. The worker kind of has the advantage when it comes to getting a job.
Right.
They didn't, especially millennials with the Great Recession, where it's the grind culture, the hustle culture.
Right.
We didn't have that.
Right.
So we could kind of
pick and choose.
And slack off, because what are you going to do? Fire me? Type of like.
Right. I can go get that job over here because there's a great job over there.
Space,
yeah.
Where it's like.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is. It's the movie Office.
Oh yeah. A red stapler.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really fascinating, because it does change how people view work, because is when it's a worker's market.
Yeah.
Right. Then you can demand better work-life balance.
And if you can leave work.
Yeah.
Like you can just go somewhere else.
Right. And we know that when businesses can't find workers, they're willing to be a little more flexible in benefits, all that kind of stuff, right? And the same holds true in the opposite sense. And when it's hard to find a job, you work really hard to keep that job.
And I mean, boomer, they have that loyalty to that job. I
don't even want to call it loyalty. Honestly, I call it desperation. I mean, as a Gen Xer, I wouldn't call that loyalty at all. I mean, I saw that whole generation of boomers provide that loyalty, and those corporations did not provide that loyalty back. That's true. Right? They were loyal because they had to be. That's where they got their.
And that's what I noticed with millennials is, it's a hustle grind culture, and that we'll get into entrepreneurial mindsets.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, that'll be good.
But it was more about the necessity rather than, this is fun, I want to do that. Whereas for us, there's an entrepreneurial mindset, but it's because I want to be my own boss. I want to have more flexibility. It's not out of necessity. It's just we want to do it.
And we'll come back to how technology changed that well for our generations too. Awesome. So let's go to commercial, and then let's come back to that here in a second. But before we go to commercial, I would like to know as a Gen Zer, okay, because I think about my upbringing and as a latchkey kid and the kind of stuff that I made for snacks right after I got back from school, right? So as a Gen Zer, what do you think is the quintessential like food item that you get from a grocery store that only Zers really go into?
The quintessential. I feel like there was things that aren't on the shelves anymore that we used to get.
Like what?
Like these little.
Wait, you're only 23. What cannot be on the shelf anymore?
Like there were these. Maybe they still have them, but they're not in gas stations. There were Cheez-Its, but then like they were in like these long, tall packages, and they were super tiny, and you poured them out, and they were just like little tiny Cheez-Its. But they weren't like.
Interesting.
I don't know how to. Maybe other Gen Zers know what I'm talking about, but they were so good. And it's like foods like that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Like the stuff you
I
get.
think there was like Chips Ahoy versions too. They were basically like little tiny versions of snacks. And I forget not Cheese Nips is like their off-brand Cheez-It.
Yeah.
What are they called? I don't know.
Did you ever have anything called Slice as a drink?
No.
It's like a mix of Sprite and Squirt and 7-Up. It's in between there, but it's this quintessential. It's gone. I haven't had Slice in forever, but that was one of those things. You did Slice, and maybe you didn't really have small bags of chips. You did big bags of chips, and Sterzings. I mean, Sterzings still around, but we'd have Slice and Sterzings. It's so good. Just as that.
This still exists again because I'm young, but back in the day when new Call of Duty video games would come out, if you got Mountain Dew and Doritos, there was like codes that would give you like XP.
Hold on. Back in the day when a new Call of Duty would come out. Okay.
I don't know if maybe they still do it. But it used to be a big, because you get like double XP if you like.
Yep.
And so that probably, was part of childhood obesity back in the 2010s.
They were really good at that.
But like, if you got a Mountain Dew in the cap, there'd be a code. You put it into the game, you get like XP and rewards.
Yep.
And if you got Doritos, and you get a chance to win things. So that was one of my memories is with the new Call of Duty coming out, getting a lot of Code Red Mountain Dew and Doritos.
Okay, so I have my version of that. We would literally cut out like a cereal box. You'd have you have toys in the cereal box. Do you still have that?
Yeah,
Is that still a thing?
I think I grew up when I stopped doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But we'd also have like an inside printed on the back of the cardboard, these little like contests.
Oh yeah.
But you didn't. There was no
like from A Christmas Story.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, hush. That's a little too millennial ago, or too many millennials ago. No, but you did. There was no code. You couldn't type it into the internet.
Yeah,
like you literally had to cut the damn cardboard thing out and put it into an envelope with a stamp. So it cost you money. To participate, and then you sent it in, and then you never heard from it again ever. It was never a thing. It was a marketing ploy. Maybe somebody won. Maybe it's not like they announced it on the nightly news who won.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was with Danimals. Like little yogurt things, and there was you would win like a yacht cruise with Zach and Cody from The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if anyone ever won that.
You don't know because there was nothing. No, how would you ever find out? Like you have to like write them and say, "Hey, who won?" And they'd send you a letter back. Like that was the only way to do it because it wasn't like the nightly news here in Cedar Rapids was reporting on who won the Zach and Cody contest, right?
From Danimals.
Yeah, from Danimals. Yeah, exactly. It was a hard life back then. Anyway, let's go to commercial. We'll see you in a second.
At 5 Star Community Credit Union, we want to help you lead a better life. We offer competitive rates and convenient appointment times for all kinds of loans: auto, recreational vehicles, home equity, line of credit, holiday, and personal loans. We make it easy to build your credit and enjoy the good things in life.
We invite you to join 5 Star Community Credit Union. We are community-minded and member-focused. Come visit our locations in West Burlington and Mount Pleasant or online at 5starcu.org. Federally insured through the NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Brown Shoe Fit, we pride ourselves on traditional sit and fit service that's been serving the Mount Pleasant area since 1952. At Brown's, we have shoes for the whole family. From kids to adults, we carry the finest footwear for every occasion. Whether you're looking for something for work, casual wear, or exercise, we've got you covered. And don't forget about our selection of safety toe footwear for both men and women. Come visit us 6 days a week and experience the best in traditional sit and fit service. Brown Shoe Fit, where quality and tradition meet.
Welcome back to Mount Pleasant Live. My name is Mike Heaton. I'm here with Nick Steffens, and we are talking about generational differences between Generation Xers, who never get talked about because we're the forgotten generation, and the Zers, who are the current dominant generation coming into the system right now. We're not dominant. Millennials are dominating, really. But
one thing I really appreciate about my sister is a millennial. She admits that like millennials are no longer the cultural driving force.
That's the right word. Cultural driving, dominant. You're the cultural driving force. Yeah.
And I'm glad that she admits that because a lot of millennials still think that they're the like funny ones on the internet.
Oh, right.
Like, you're just cringe.
Yeah. It's and you know why though? You know why that is?
Why
they're no longer? It's because they're too busy having kids.
That's true.
They don't.
Like the oldest millennials are 42 this year.
Isn't that crazy?
Which I don't think people realize. I think people still think millennials
like 20s
are these
and 30s.
20-year-old hipsters still.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're 42.
Yeah, exactly. They're old.
Which I guess that's another interesting thing we could talk about is the delay of milestones. Well, that'll be the last one we talk about.
Delay of that's fascinating. Okay, we'll get back. Like,
but we're gonna do the entrepreneurial.
Okay, perfect. So as listeners know, this show is I'm a big fan of small business and people starting their businesses, and I just learned from reading what GTP said, because that is now that's the new Google. If it says so, that's how it is, right? is that Generation Xers are super entrepreneurial. And we talked earlier about sort of where the economy was at when we graduated and got into it. And sort of makes sense that if it was a worker's economy and you had the choice to do stuff, you also means you had the freedom to do it yourself. And as super independent, leave me alone, latchkey kids, entrepreneurism, starting your own business, definitely very attractive on our part. And it sounds like the millennials are the same way.
Gen Zers.
Sorry. I don't want to connect you with the millennials now.
And I think people my age, I mean, I have friends that do freelance work because that's what they want. They want to be their own boss one day. I mean, a lot of businesses popping up with, maybe they're selling smoothies, or coffee shops are owned by Gen Z people because they just want to be take the chance and see if you can be your own boss and get the flexibility with that.
We ran into this the other day too. This space, Traction Steam, is focused on entrepreneurs, right? And we often in our work, we get a lot of sort of raised eyebrows, especially by boomers, right? And I love boomers. Boomers changed the world. If you look at history, this is not a criticism of boomers. It really isn't. But it's that reflection of they grew up in a corporate dominated environment as opposed to a workers dominated environment, right? And the idea of being an entrepreneur is it's a struggle. Like to take a risk, and it's considered almost too risky to start your own business for a boomer, because when they grew up, if you took a risk and you failed, it was a big failure. Like it really impacted your lives and lives of your
And not
family.
to get to like macroeconomics, but it's like interest rates were 15% back then, and now they're like 0.2.
Exactly. And so the market is better for entrepreneurship when I grew up and came out of the system, and it's really good for Zers now to try something new because the risk isn't so big. And it's a time that we really need to take advantage of.
And also we talked about technology. You could also make money from home now.
Exactly.
From a lab, you can get a $600 laptop and make, $40,000 a year. It'd be fine.
That's one thing I love about Traction Steam is we actually have we have remote workers. Right. People that have their own businesses, or they're working for a company remotely, but they're all sort of neat startup type businesses where there's only like 5 employees and they can do it from anywhere. Right. One of our workers here, they do drone footage and 360 degree footage of houses on like Zillow. You've seen that, where you go to a house.
Super cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat, isn't it? Like that's their job. Is to do that. And they can do that from anywhere in Southeast Iowa, and they do it from a co-work space, and then they upload everything, that kind of stuff. It's fun. But that's a mentality, I think, of both of our generations is it's okay to try something. And take the risk, because we can. The market says you can right now.
And also there's the whole pandemic thing, and people got used to everything. And it's like, well, I just sat at home for 2 years and I wasted the best years of my life at home. So now I want to go out and try these things.
Exactly.
There is that aspect of it as well.
and knowing that we also learn how to use Zoom
and
Microsoft Teams and all that kind of stuff too. It's fascinating. I always talked with, when I'm a fundraiser by trade, and I raise money for a living for nonprofits. And when I looked at giving levels and community support, especially with Wesleyan when I was there as a fundraiser, you saw this change based on year, based on decade in giving, right? And you could literally, if you walk the campus right now, which you probably could, no one's going to stop you at the moment, but maybe they will. I don't know. Hopefully they have security over there. They do have security. Don't walk.
Don't.
Just saying, don't do it. But if you do, you can see plaques everywhere, right? And you can see donations, and there's so many plaques from my upbringing, because my parents and my early generation, those older Xers, started businesses. And did really well in those businesses and gave back to their communities. It was a very entrepreneurial couple decades there. The 70s and 80s were in the 90s for that matter, and then into the very first sort of tech boom in the 2000s. You saw this blast of small companies becoming big and scaling, and a lot of local ownership here in Mount Pleasant, and where they gave back to their community. And then that sort of disappeared for a little bit, unfortunately, as the entrepreneurship slowed down, and it's just starting to pick back up again. And now's the time,
Yeah.
you know, and your generation, I think, is taking that mantle and running with it, which is exciting.
And this is, I don't know if there's actually evidence to back this up. It's more anecdotal. But one thing I also noticed is usually what happens is talk about delayed milestones, is people my age, they have a fiance or the husband or wife who has a remote job where they make like $120,000 a year as a software architect.
Dang.
And like, or whatever. And then
what do I need to go study now for $120,000?
Computer science and
computer science
architecture.
Okay.
And so then it's like, well, this person has enough to support us with one income. So now I have the freedom to go do
and try something different.
And so that's one thing that other generations didn't have. Is it's been a long time since one person could support two people.
Right. And on top of that, you can do it here in Mount Pleasant.
Exactly.
Which is different.
There's a freedom to it.
Yeah. There's really an incentive, I think, to push those kind of jobs right now here in Mount Pleasant, and the idea that you can work remotely for $120K.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. 120 might be hyperbolic, but still 80, 90,000 if it's just...
Not in the computer science world, it's not.
No, not in the computer science.
No, it's very doable. It takes a lot of education. You got to go back for a couple years of school. And Southeastern has a great computer science program, and so does Iowa. But so 4 years down the road, if you wanted to start now, you could get to 120 quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can, and you can do it remotely, and then that gives your spouse, significant other, a chance to go after something unique, right? And start their own business.
And I mentioned delayed milestones a few times.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed with millennials is they focused on and I don't think boomers are this way. I think it's really, I don't know about Gen X. Millennials focus on their careers first, then they got to 30, and then they got married.
Right.
Whereas my generation, my best friend's married. One of my other best friends is engaged.
Yeah.
Like we're getting married and doing these things sooner and then figuring out the career stuff later on. So was Gen X.
We were similar. Like, yeah. I got married when I was 23, I think. I want to say 23, 24.
So you were my age when you got married.
Well, at 20, I'm celebrating 20 years this August, and nice. I'm 40. Hold on. 45 this in a month, right? So I'd have been 25. Yeah, and Abigail was not too long out of college, so I robbed the cradle a little bit. I think she's 22, 23 when we got married. So we got married earlier, I think, as Jenner. But I remember a lot of my friends who are younger or were the oldest in their families, who are generation, who are millennials, really.
Yeah.
They waited till they're 35 in some cases, which is great. Different process though, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a right or wrong way to do things. I just noticed that the whole getting married, having kids thing, millennials waited a long time. And Gen Z isn't.
Yeah. And the difference being like, you can get more secure in your finances and your housing, all that kind of stuff. And then you have kids. My benefit as an Xer is my kids are about to graduate, and I still got like 20 years of like, I get to go enjoy life. Not that I love having kids too. Kids are fun.
But it also kind of full circle to everything. It's
very true.
We were able to have kids young because
there's
of the financial situation, whereas
better market
had to grind and work, and so there was much more the focus on your career when after the Great Recession.
That's fascinating. It's fascinating to see that at the macro level. I hadn't really thought about that before. It's easy to stereotype people. Like we were always a lazy generation. Like, no, we weren't. You just never saw us, right? Like we weren't anywhere for you to see us working because we were gone.
Yeah.
Right. We were always running the streets somewhere, and we had Nirvana as our spokesperson, which isn't necessarily the best spokesperson. Great music, don't get me wrong, but like I can see why people looked at our generation and like, okay.
I mean, it's our generation. People like, the hippity hop music. It's like
right.
It was the same thing with grunge music in the 90s.
Exactly. Don't judge us on that, guys. I mean, good music, but don't judge us on.
Yeah,
we're not all smoking pot in the corner and with long hair ignoring you. We do grind, but we grind in our own way, right? We work to live, not live to work. It's a little different. Yeah. Because we can, right? So how do we take advantage of that here now? How does Mount Pleasant, how do we as a community take advantage of all these young folks who want a better quality of life?
I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
I noticed it. So we do the police report up in Washington for Washington Live.
Yeah. Wait, Washington has a Washington Live?
There's a little bit of a rivalry. And so we do the police report. And one thing is, and I experienced this when I was in high school, is kids will just be existing and people will call the cops on us. They're like, they're at the playground. It's like, children are at the playground.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this, or if we're up downtown, it's like, what are you kids doing? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. We were all skateboarding downtown, and they changed laws to say you're not allowed to skateboard.
Yeah, and so it's like
downtown.
you gotta let kids exist.
Right.
Like, stop thinking that every kid's up to dubious
Yeah.
things. It's like they're loitering. It's like, no, we're standing. Like I got yelled at because I was on the sidewalk once. They're like, someone came out of their house and yelled at me for being on the sidewalk.
Right.
Because I was a high schooler and I must have been up to no good. And it's just like we need to let kids exist, have fun.
Yeah.
Or like there's this other like things just weren't meant for kids.
Yeah.
Around here, unfortunately.
Designed.
When you're in high school
Yeah.
and you don't feel welcomed anywhere.
Right.
Even just going out to Eastlake, people just assume that we're out there vandalizing things. Like, no, we're playing.
Enjoying the
We're
beautiful
playing
park.
Volleyball, tennis, soccer. We're doing things.
Right. Or just walking. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we're not spray painting and smoking funny cigarettes.
Yeah.
We're just existing. And I think that's a culture that's my soapbox. That's a culture that needs to change.
That's fascinating.
Is let high school age kids and middle schoolers exist.
Right.
Not up to bad things. They're just existing the same way you did back in the day.
Oh yeah.
But now this, yeah.
So and it's a tough sell because there are one or two percentages that are up to no good, right? Like we had downtown the planters, which are gorgeous. Thank you, Moog Organic Farms.
Yeah.
Amazing planters. They're really coming to life right now downtown. It's beautiful. But last year we had a run of people tipping them over at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? They've sort of cracked down on that, I think, a little bit with cameras and some other things going on. So if you're listening, don't turn those over. You're going to get caught. But when that happens, people sort of say, no kids can be down there because the pots get turned over at 2 a.m. That's after curfew. Like there's a balance, right?
Yeah, there is.
How do we figure that out to where we're not destroying property? Because it does get destroyed.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and some kids are dumb.
Yeah, and things do.
All kids are dumb. Their brains aren't quite fully
my frontal lobe's
all
still
the time.
undeveloped. I got another year.
You still got a couple. I think 27 now. Is it 25?
Keep pushing it back.
Yeah, sorry. It's 45 people. My brain's still not there yet either. I still got another month. But that's part of it though, right? Is finding that balance, right? Like we don't have to be fully like, oh, the planters got tips, so no kids can hang out downtown.
Exactly.
Right.
That was something I experienced a lot in middle school and high school. I mean,
really?
My a couple friends and I were gone to a stupid debate about who could run faster. So we went to Maple Leaf and did a 100-meter dash race. Someone called the cops on us. And it was just like, yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Like it was just anytime we tried to go out in public.
Yeah. It is a bummer.
It was just, That
was the crackdown on my generation. Probably my generation was running rampant a little too much out in the neighborhood. And so with the millennials, they cracked down and then you had to deal with the backlash of that in the back end.
I mean, and like I said, with the Washington police report, it'd be like, kids are outside laughing.
Yeah.
It's like,
wait, really?
Yeah.
That was one of the.
Yeah. Or like kids are riding their bikes in the street. It's like, what do you want them to ride?
That's where you ride your bikes.
Like, do you just go do circles in the driveway? Like, what do you expect for them to do?
Oh, that's funny. We discovered, we were riding our bikes out and I'm sure somebody's farm road outside of Lynn Heights. And we found a cemetery, an old pioneer cemetery. Right. And you can go by it today. It's right on the bike path, just, to the east of the school,
what you're talking about.
The high school there and just near Linden Heights. And that was it was overrun. People didn't know it was there. It was so old and we found it. We told our parents about it. It ended up being a Boy Scout project of one of my friends. And we cleaned it up. We did all the, whatever you put piece of paper over it. Yeah. So and try to figure out the dates and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, we didn't clean it up to what it is today. Yeah. There's committees and great volunteer groups to do that. But we rebuilt it and got it back to life and respected it. But that kind of thing doesn't happen if you don't give kids some freedom. See, I just connected those things a little bit. You got to give us the freedom to try.
It starts
and
young.
explore.
It starts in middle school and high school when they're out exploring.
Yeah, exactly. That mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset. Anything else you want to chat about? Differences between generations, our generations. Now we can bring boomers in. Don't get me wrong. We can bring millennials in later for a good conversation about those differences. But this is neat to talk about Xers and
what's
Zers.
What's your pet peeve of like people view Gen Xers and what's your thing that annoys you? Because I have mine.
Go with yours first while I think about it.
I hate people like, oh, I bet you don't know about video stores
and cursive,
and cursive, and it's like I do.
Yeah.
I do. Like, I went to Family Video. I learned cursive throughout elementary school. Why would I ever write in cursive? Am I writing a Declaration of Independence? Why would I ever need to know cursive?
Let's be fair. And this has changed dramatically in recent years. But growing up in rural, we were about 5 years behind in terms of social trends and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So things like, I mean, we just Family Video, Adventureland Video, all those those were there a lot longer in Mount Pleasant
than they were other places.
Than they were in the cities. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
those are long gone because we didn't have internet to be able to stream movies the way they had before us by 10, 15 years in some cases, right? So like you experienced things, but we did talk about the rotary phone.
Yeah, people are like, I bet you wouldn't know how to dial on a rotary phone. It's like it's a toy at the end of the day. You just have to do that. It's not rocket science.
But I did get you later. I said, have you ever done the 5-digit phone number?
In which they've always had 8.
Yeah. So let's be fair. Like there are some things that you know, some things that don't. Like my dad knows stuff and like how to talk to an operator.
I just imagine like my great grandfather being like, I bet you don't know how to put a horseshoe on a donkey. Like it's like, he was a blacksmith and his son wasn't. Like that's just things change.
That's all it is. Things change.
Exactly. You would never.
And sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes it's not. Mm-hmm. Like I used to make fun of my friends. We get to college, right?
Yeah.
And they were I'm on the very tail end of the Xers. Mm-hmm. And so I went to school with some of the early millennials, especially when I was a senior and we're talking to freshmen.
Yeah.
They couldn't call and order a pizza. Like, because their mom always did it for them, or their dad did, right? And so it scared them to make that phone call to order a pizza. I'm like, guys, just pick up the phone and order a dang pizza. Yeah. Like that kind of independence, like is the most baseline thing.
Now Gen Z is like, if I had to talk to a person,
I know.
Like, just let me use an app. I don't want to communicate with people.
Yeah, like my son, I get he has his phone, and anything that he does, I have to approve with my phone, right? Mm-hmm. Like if he gets a new app. And the other day, he said, we're going to go to Sonic down in Burlington. We're going to take a trip to Sonic with his friends. I'm like, cool, right? Good. Go do your thing. Have fun. They went down to Sonic. And right about the time he should be ordering food at Sonic, by pushing a button, talking to a human person, I get a request on my phone saying, I would like to download the Sonic app. I'm like, what the? Just push the button, Robbie, right? Just push the button. But here's what I've learned. Two things. One is, why not? Especially if you're an introvert and you don't like talking to people. Yeah. There's half the world's introverts. Mm-hmm. And those speakers suck.
Yeah.
Like, you can't understand what they're saying. And so having the app actually makes sure you get your order correct, which he pointed out to me.
Yeah.
I can guarantee
you can customize easier.
Exactly. I can guarantee there's no pickles, right? Yeah. Like you always complain with McDonald's when you go through and you ask for no pickles and they give you pickles, Dad. I can guarantee no pickles because it says it right there, right? I'm like, that's number one. And then number two, he said, they're marketing toward us. They give me coupons.
Exactly.
I save money on the app, Dad. So let me use the app. And I'm like, fine, that makes sense. I believe you. So some things are better.
Somewhere if I have to interact with a human being.
You won't really?
There's if it's easier to get I don't know, a pizza place.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not talking about Mount Pleasant. I'm just making it.
Sure.
And if Cedar Falls.
Right.
I can order on the app for Domino's.
Right.
But for the local pizza joint, I got to talk to a person.
Yeah.
It's like
And now I admit,
use the app for Domino's.
I will openly admit this is one of my favorite things ever. And I've only seen, I think it's Marriott, Bonvoy, I think is their app. Mm. And oh my God, it's incredible. Because I traveled a lot for a long time when I was with UNICEF and when I was a consultant, I was traveling the country nonstop and staying in hotels all the time, right? And there's nothing worse than a red-eye flight. You get there at midnight, and then there's a line in front of you at the hotel.
Yeah.
And you have to wait, and they're looking at their computer and all this crap, right? And with Bonvoy, this app, I literally just walk into Marriott, and it tells, I check in on my phone, it says, you're in room 405.
And
I walk up,
beautiful?
and I scan my phone. I don't have to talk to a single person.
Yeah.
And I can get right in the door, and it's done. Mm-hmm. And that is incredible.
Yeah.
And I'll take that. I don't care what generation we're from. That is so much nicer. Yeah. And people say it costs jobs, that kind of stuff. No, it just changes the job because people still have to manage that. They have to code that app. They have to make sure the rooms are still clean. They got to it just changes.
And there's still places like Main Street Pizza. They have a website that I can order online. But I'm just going to call Roger.
Because it's Roger. Because it's Roger.
Because I know.
Yeah, it's right. and you walk in, he's like, here you go, Mike. Like he knows it. Yeah, exactly. There are certain benefits to knowing people.
I don't want to I think I'm avoiding anyone in Mount Pleasant. But
No, but there's something to it though.
Yeah.
There's something to it. And there's ways to still have a relation. Like you can order through your app
and then
walk. It just costs more to do it. I'd rather do it in person because then he doesn't lose money to the app.
That's true.
And so there's a thing to that. But like, you can still talk to people if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You can still walk. I can still stop by the hotel desk, say hi, and talk to the concierge, right? And I don't go to hotels that have concierge, but you could if you were that fancy, right?
Yeah.
But like, so it's if you want that interaction, you can have it, but you don't have to anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, that's a nice blend.
It is.
We'll see how that goes. We'll see what our boomers and millennials think of that.
Yeah. They'll probably tell me to pick up the damn phone.
Yeah, exactly. Make the phone call. Yeah. I got you. I know we're getting a little over here, but this has been a fun conversation. Thank you for.
And I bet a lot of the viewers will
have some comments.
Good or bad.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, thank you. This has been a. Oh wait, hold on.
We got
Hold on. National Day today
is National American Eagle Day. I still want to get a American Eagle screech for the soundboard. I got to download that.
The screech?
Yeah.
Are you going to do of an eagle or are you going to do of the red-tailed hawk?
Yeah. So when you hear it in the movies, it's actually a red-tailed hawk.
Yeah.
Because the bald eagle screech is not really a screech. It's more of like
It's cringy. It's a little cringy.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, compare what you think. It's also National Jimmy Day.
Yeah. Shout out to Jimmy Arnold.
Good job, Jimmy. What's National Jimmy Day?
It's this.
Your name's Jim?
People named Jimmy.
Hey.
So shout out to Jimmy Arnold.
What's up, Jimmy Ace? How you doing? Jim Brawl. Good to see you. There's lots of gyms in town. There's tons of gyms.
Solid name.
Yeah, good people. Jim. Yeah, I thought it was like break into places. You Jimmy it?
I know also those little sprinkles, little chocolate sprinkles, also called Jimmy's in I think New England.
Are they really?
I think so.
I've heard that.
Or the South. I don't know.
Have we talked about that in this show before? I feel like I've heard that somewhere. Maybe not.
I don't think
Sprinkles, Jimmy's. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do we do the birthday game or no?
We're kind of long on time, so we'll just do the shout out to Nicole Kidman.
Happy birthday, Nicole.
Lionel Richie.
Yeah. Do you know the ages of these people?
No.
You've written that? Okay, we're not going to look it up.
John Goodman, who's he lost like 200 pounds.
I saw that.
I guess I have the photo.
Yeah, that's impressive. The side by side. Yeah, that's incredible. Awesome.
Like good for him.
Good job, John.
Shout out to John.
Yeah, not Jimmy, but John. It's okay.
And then there's also
who's our random?
There wasn't a random because we were gonna play each other.
Oh yeah,
and like the
you
random
can't look it
takes
up.
a bit more research. So
yeah, that's.
But Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who is McLovin in Superbad.
Oh, that's right. Nice. Awesome. Happy birthday to all those fantastic people. If today is your birthday, happy birthday to you.
Let me see, do I have anyone?
I do. I have a couple
do you
people.
Know, do you know anyone with a birthday?
I do.
Who?
I do. You would know her. She lives out in DC. She's one of my wife's best friends. Happy birthday to Bev. I think it's Bev's birthday today. Happy birthday. There's a lot of people with great birthdays. This is a run. I always have to remember starting on the 20th of June all the way through like the 25th. There's like birthday. Good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's 1 month until my birthday.
Is it?
Yeah. And then you're 20.
Are you the 20th of July?
Yeah, and then you're 21st.
It's going to be a fun week.
I think there's an episode on the 21st.
We're going to have a great time.
Yep. It's a Thursday episode.
Oh, heck yeah. Be good times. All right. Y'all have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on